It's the Raw Meat Podcast, the most mediocre wrestling podcast on the internet. With the smart Greg Adams, the nature boy Jay Whatley, and the hardcore icon Puff.
All right, it is the Raw Meat Podcast. Greg Adams here, Puff over in that corner, and joined by Jay Whatley when he gets his mic in front of him. Woo! There he is. All right. This is a pressed for time, I guess, podcast because it is the night or the afternoon of the night of the WWE Smackdown Draft, Raw Smackdown Draft. There's so many new pieces of vernacular we're going to have to learn.
The draft.
Well,
brand extension, the draft, just so much stuff going on. Last night's Raw, quick recap. General managers for both shows announced. We have Mick Foley, who Puff is representing today with his Cactus Jack shirt. Bang, bang, bitches.
We got Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, Dude Love, Mankind running Raw for Stephanie McMahon. We'll get to how weird that is in a second. And Daniel Bryan stealing the show and proving yet again that he is still one of the 5 most over wrestlers living today as he takes over SmackDown for Shane McMahon. I want to circle back to just what we said about how awkward it is that Mick Foley and Stephanie are together. I know you had some really strong thoughts on this, Puff. You don't think that this is as weird as Jay and I do.
No, because Foley, when he wants to be, is a great heel. You even seen him turn up the heat a little bit on Daniel Bryan near the end of Raw last night, which was awesome. I love when Mick just gets angry about stuff. I feel like that's when he's in his element. But I think long term he's only going to be maybe there 2 months at most. I think he's going to start making some decision, and Steph's going to be like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then eventually there's going to be a blow up and he's going to get canned.
As you say that, I think back to Stephanie being very particular with what she was saying about how she has the full confidence and full support behind this man and all of that. So that does lay the groundwork for that. Jay, you think actually that Foley has a different trajectory.
I thought the swerve was coming last night. I didn't think he would still have that GM title at the end of Raw last night. The guy is already lined up to be featured at an indie show in a week. I just cannot imagine that the Raw general manager would be touted at an indie show. I can't see that realistically.
I honestly thought that Triple H was going to be the pick to be the general manager of Raw.
And I still do.
And of the 5 that people were floating out there, Mick Foley was my number 2 pick, but not because I think he's a great character for that role, but I just know the way they work, and they have a network show coming out with Holy Foley.
Well, he was a commissioner before, and he was pretty awesome.
He does have that credibility too, but I think they didn't realize when they signed up for Holy Foley exactly what they had. I don't think they understood the online footprint and impact that Noelle Foley has. So the demand for this show, I think, has already piqued their interest. They now put Mick back in the spotlight. I think they're really circling around having something there. But, Jay, you said something today that kind of stuck in my mind. I don't know if he makes a pick tonight. Or maybe it's tonight a pick he makes that sets Steph off.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't close tonight with Mick Foley as the GM.
I cannot imagine a world, and I don't care how long he's been gone, I don't care what he's doing, what else he's focused on at his real job. There's no way that Triple H doesn't show up tonight in one of the biggest nights in recent WWE history. There's just no way. There's no way that Triple H, with the ego of his, cannot be on TV during this tonight. No way. He's coming in wrecking shop.
Now, I don't want to know. I don't go that far. I don't know that they name a second GM right away, but I don't know if we end tonight with Mick Foley in charge of Raw. But crazier things have happened. Other things that happened last night on Raw that were very interesting. The 12-man tag match was one of
Hold on. Before we get there, since we're on the announcement section of the podcast, the Cruiserweight division.
I wanted to hold that towards the end.
Damn it! Let's talk about that now because that's important. That was a big reveal right off the bat.
It was, and when they made all 3 reveals, I had this gut feeling that the show was going downhill from that point. I was like, okay, here's what you should have done. You should have announced one of the GMs. You announced Mick Foley right off the bat. Then towards the second hour, you announce Daniel Bryan. And then right at the start of the third hour, you announce the Cruiserweights. You find a way to stagger those, but they didn't actually need that. So the way they booked Raw was really good. The Cruiserweight brings an interesting element to the draft tonight because now it's essentially, without saying it, they're implying that anybody who's in the Cruiserweight Classic is now eligible to be drafted.
Well, and a lot of those guys got signed to quote-unquote NXT deals. NXT roster members available for the draft. Maybe that's the rub, the work.
I don't know if that would be the work because they're not officially NXT guys in the sense of on-screen characters. But this is, I think, why they have made the rule in the draft where for every 2 picks SmackDown gets,
Raw gets 3.
Raw gets 3. So I assume that third pick almost every time is going to be a Cruiserweight guy, which there's Tajiri we know probably coming up. Ibushi is probably going.
Brian Kendrick.
Yes, there are some guys who do have a WWE pedigree. And remember, all of the guys in the Cruiserweight Classic, they had to be free agents in order to compete. So therefore, they had to be eligible for WWE to sign them. A guy like Zack Sabre Jr., I think would be great to throw right on the main roster and make a Cruiserweight champ soon. He
wasn't one of the guys announced for a contract, but sometimes they withhold that information from us so we don't be too smart.
Right, but there has to be some kind of ink on paper for the Cruiserweight Classic, and there could be something in there that says this will make you eligible for this kind of contract depending on your performance within this.
Maybe like a minor league baseball contract where it's like we can purchase your contract for full service at any time.
We have no idea what's in the Cruiserweight contract, and a lot of those guys, being that this is the biggest stage they've ever been on, they would probably gladly sign away the ability to not negotiate a contract for the Cruiserweight Classic to then be signed right away.
Mm-hmm.
So the Cruiserweight's very interesting. And we'll just skip over that 12-man tag match. Let's just say it was really good from the promos all the way through.
Yeah, if you didn't watch the promos, Google that right now. It's worth it.
And then we'll go straight to the championship match they had last night, where I think everybody in this room knew there was a 90% or better chance that belt was changing hands last night. If for no other reason, the fact that when Raw was announced as having the number 1 draft pick, you knew that's got to be Seth Rollins.
Well, we think we know.
The way that last night, even after the way last night set up, I'm very confident.
Well, tonight they've already announced that there's going to be a rematch on SmackDown Live. What I'm interested to see is where they're going to place the match. If they do it right off the bat, hey, before the draft starts, let's clear this mess up from last night. Seth Rollins wins. Stephanie makes her first pick. We know the answer, but I guess we'll see how it all plays out this evening.
Part of me feels like they're going to do the first part of the draft before that match. I feel like that match is probably going to be towards the end. I wouldn't be surprised if your number 1 and number 2 picks are Seth Rollins to Raw with the belt, Dean Ambrose to SmackDown as the challenger, and then at the end of the night there's either a swerve or there's
well, currently right now Ambrose is the champion the way things stand. So
is it? Because the way that I watched last night was Seth Rollins walk away with a belt in his hand.
They had a little addendum thing on the network where the referee reviewed the footage and made a ruling, and that's what set up the rematch for the night.
On paper Ambrose is the champ right now.
Well, if that's the case,
but this will definitely end with both of them being champions. No.
Yeah, that's the way that I feel we leave this.
Yeah.
Well, I think this definitely leads to the introduction of a new belt.
Yeah, and maybe we see it tonight. That would be cool, but
it would be awesome.
It would. The only way that we see it tonight is if they are going to go back to the big gold belt, because it wouldn't fully make sense to say, hey, we just had this happen and we need to crown our own new champion. Oh, by the way, we just happen to have this belt designed and built. Here you go.
Sitting here.
So there could be one of those things where Ric Flair happens to be in the back and goes, oh, you guys need this? And pulls a wrestling move where it's out of a trunk or something, and it's the big gold belt, and then all of a sudden we have the big gold belt back into play.
Well, I just had a thought and lost it. Never mind.
Have you guys mocked at all? Y'all done any mocking?
Yeah, glad you listened.
How many picks did you guys
we
get?
went through the first 10 rounds.
Although it doesn't.
First 10 rounds, so that's what, 20 picks?
But that
completely irrelevant because they changed the rules.
They changed the rules on us. So
Yeah.
a lot of what we did, it really established at least our thought process, but based on the rules that they changed and the way that we conducted our draft, a lot of picks would have to be changed. But I think that our thought process would remain the same. It would just be a little bit changed on
3-2.
knowing that the club, Gallows and Anderson, will be picked as one, but AJ Styles will be picked as another.
Well, if you remember, I went by the old rules, which was in place. That's why I split up Enzo and Cass, but that's a...
Right, and that rule is technically still in place, so let's go over the rules. Raw has the first overall pick. SmackDown Live is a 2-hour show. Raw is 3, so for every 2 picks that SmackDown receives, Raw will receive 3. Tag teams will count as 1 pick unless the commissioner or general manager specifically only wants 1 member of the team. 6 draft picks will be made off the NXT roster, and we have a list of eligible superstars in front of all 3 of us right now. So...
Let's start with the NXT guys.
Wait, now let's say this. Who first NXT guy getting drafted?
Balor.
Finn Balor.
And how quickly?
I think he's going super early, like first 3 rounds, especially if they're picking 2 at a time.
Now, are they going to pick 2 at a time, or are they going to pick in a staggered way where each round will have that supplemental pick for Raw?
Well, even if they do that, I still think Balor goes early to one of the shows.
So you're saying that it would go Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown?
Yeah.
Raw, SmackDown?
Yeah.
That's
that.
everything I just wrote. It's worth nothing.
No. It's still just like what we did. It'll still be fine because it's more of the thought process than anything. Because what we talked about, and that's not for sure. I don't know that. I'm just thinking that would make sense in my mind to say, okay, here's the first round, Raw picks, SmackDown picks. Now here's Raw's supplemental pick. Then round 2, SmackDown picks, Raw supplemental pick.
God, that's brutal, man.
I think
It's just brutal, though.
that's the way that I would do it, but we don't know. I mean, they're making announcements throughout the afternoon. We'll find out during probably the pre-draft show.
Which starts at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. local time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. The thing, aside from how they're going to pick, because again, structured number-wise, what we found out when we started doing our mock draft was it's a lot about the thought process behind the 2. And now that we know that Daniel Bryan is with Shane for sure, and Mick Foley is with Steph for sure, we have a better idea of how they're going to structure these rosters because they're going to make it reflective of
the personality.
The personality. And we had an idea of that with the way that Shane was positioning the new era, and Steph was, I don't want to say confiding, but she was finding common ground with guys like Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. And you've got Shane out there ahead with your Apollo Cruzes and your Sami Zayns and the whole new era guys. And then to bring Daniel Bryan in, that solidifies. This is going to be the cool, smart show. So when you say that Finn Balor's going to be drafted early, he'll get drafted early, and he'll get drafted to SmackDown. That's the way that I see it playing out. Not as early as you said in the mock draft, because this guy over here had him number 1 to
No, you
SmackDown.
did not.
We're just goofing around.
Golly, man.
Well, Greg prefaced it. What do you want to see? I think that would be a
and
ballsy move
This
right
is
off
also
the
the
bat.
same guy that has predicted a Finn Balor appearance for every Raw over the last 4 months.
Now, a Finn Balor appearance would have made sense prior to this, and this is what I said going into last night. If you're going to take 6 people off the NXT roster, let's think about how many people actually watch NXT on a weekly basis. How many of those mainstream Raw or SmackDown fans know who Finn Balor
agreed.
is?
Well, we said
Well,
the
I
same
think
thing
there's
about
no way that he goes that early.
I think he goes early because, again, the structure of your brand. We talked a lot about reactions because I think that's going to make this draft. It's going to be when Steph makes a pick and she shoots a glance over at Shane like, "Ha, I just got you," and then there's going to be the Shane pick of, "You think so? 'Cause watch this."
Yeah.
And I think that's where the Finn Balor pick comes in. I think it's Steph thinking that she gets somebody like Cesaro out from under Shane's nose Or maybe it's even a champion where she sneaks a champ pick and gets Rusev without him thinking about it, and then all of a sudden he just goes, okay, fine, Finn Balor. And if tonight's crowd is like last night's,
And you know what's going to be.
and if they do this draft correctly, which so far everything they're setting up, I am more excited about the way they're setting this draft up than really anything that I have been since Mania, because this is set up so perfectly. They will have to really screw up to fall flat tonight.
And this is a layup. This is a grade school layup.
Yeah.
They can't screw up that bad.
Okay, so how high does Brock Lesnar get drafted?
Well, if you would have asked me that before the positive drug test, I would have said top 2 rounds.
Not positive drug test.
Possible positive
It's a
drug test.
suspicious test. Now, I am going to stick with the idea that we have voiced multiple times where I think either Paul Heyman shows up or Vince steps out and says, Brock is not your property. Brock Lesnar does what Brock Lesnar wants to do. I really think that was said in that press conference for a specific reason. We probably hear it again tonight, because it doesn't make sense for them to make that kind of investment in a guy who's only going to be there 4 months out of the year.
Right.
We're probably never going to see Brock Lesnar fight a match on Raw or SmackDown ever again. So if he's only going to be used for pay-per-views, what's the point in spending a roster spot on him?
But if he did start making regular television appearances again, that would draw ratings. And if they're willing to pay, Brock's willing to show up. I think we know that much about Mr. Lesnar.
That is also very true, but
And Brock's other revenue source might be
compromised.
might be compromised a little bit.
I don't think Brock needs a revenue source.
No.
I mean, he's got
he
a
doesn't need it.
He's got a compound in Saskatchewan where he is more than happy to just sit there. If you want to bring him out of there, you have to put so much bread on the trail that it almost becomes stupid.
The last time we seen Lesnar, though, was WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
And I think his contract is, 80 dates a year or something like that? 65?
I don't think it was even that high.
It was pretty close in the upper 60s, and they haven't used him since April. So they've been storing those appearances. SummerSlam's around.
I think he gets drafted straight up, and I think he comes out. I think he's there.
You think he's going to be there tonight?
Yep.
You think he walks out on that stage?
Yep.
Again,
I think he's there in the house. I think he gets drafted quick, too, like 5th.
Before this whole scandal thing, I would have agreed with you, but I think they keep him off of TV until that mess gets cleaned up.
Well,
WWE also
But why? I don't know, man.
Someone just filed a law. 51 wrestlers just filed a lawsuit against WWE today. You got the Brock. I think they want anything controversial as far away from them as possible.
Well, if they wanted that, they wouldn't have put him on the eligible drafted
That is
list.
very true. And here's the other thing that I find interesting. You still have Roman sitting out there with essentially the same thing that Brock is being charged with right now. Roman's going to get drafted. Roman might get drafted high.
Oh, yeah.
What if in the same round, both of those guys get picked and they just get it out of the way? They peel the Band-Aid off real fast. 4th round, Raw takes Roman Reigns, SmackDown takes Brock Lesnar. And then you have all of that controversy done in a 5 to 10 minute period.
Boom.
And then you move on. And you get both of those guys who in 4 to 5 months are both going to be marquee names for
But see,
somebody.
But also the thing is, they don't even have to address Brock Lesnar's situation. They don't
at all.
Not in any way.
But other people are going to.
Yeah, but they do not have to do that at all. They
Which-
can that issue is not going on in their world.
They're not stupid,
you know?
though.
Well, yeah. Well, and it's certainly a transparent age. But I'm saying I don't even think they even bring it up with Brock. I think it's drafted. He's the beast. He's fighting Randy Orton in a month or however long.
I would still put my money on that he doesn't have brand allegiance. But if he does,
Yeah, that would be great.
If he does, I see them putting him on SmackDown for what you said. If his name is attached to a TV show, they're going to have casual fans. They're going to get people who probably never watched a Thursday SmackDown because they'll read the results online Wednesday morning. They'll see the recaps on Monday. They don't waste their time. This could be a way to get new eyeballs on the SmackDown brand. Before we talk about the big names that I find very interesting that could go very high, let's talk about some of these names on here that are going to be wasted picks.
Well, before we get to that, There are also going to be an entire hour of straight draft picks on the network after the show's over tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I bet, just for going down the list here, we don't see
Neville.
No, we probably see
I think
Neville.
we see Neville get picked.
But I don't think we see Jack Swagger.
We're doing a whole hour of nonstop picks.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be nonstop picks. There's not enough people to do nonstop picks, but I think that hour is actually going to probably be more full of Cruiserweight Classic type guys.
Well, I think it's going to be the Jack Swaggers and probably unknown dudes like the Cruiserweight guys.
Well, the way that this is also structured is there are guys. We know they officially broke up the Lucha Dragons. That's in the press release.
Hopefully Sin Cara never to be seen again.
But they also have Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt and Eric Rowan all separated, which means the Wyatt family could be picked apart here. You could have Braun Strowman showing up on Raw while Bray Wyatt belongs to SmackDown.
Well, if you notice, let's see here. For instance, the Social Outcasts listed as a faction.
Yep.
New Day listed as a faction. The Club not listed as a faction. AJ's has a solo act, Gallows and Anderson. So those two could wind up on separate shows.
So there are guys like Braun Strowman who I don't think does a lot for anybody to see him picked live on SmackDown tonight. A guy like The Big Show is very important and carries a lot of weight, literally and figuratively.
Look at those knees, baby.
Do you take TV time
you got
to draft Big Show?
I think
okay.
so.
Do you
they
take
took TV time last night to promote him getting drafted.
Do you take TV time to draft Mark Henry?
No.
What's the difference between Mark Henry and The Big Show?
Mark Henry doesn't have the name that the Big Show has.
Well, the difference is Big Show isn't a quote-unquote, like he's talked about this in interviews recently, Vince has tapped him to be an ambassador of the sport. Like he does all the overseas trips. He visits the troops. Like that's it. So he does a lot more for the company than a Mark Henry. I think that's the difference.
I mean, if you're saying which one do I expect to get drafted on television more than the Big Show. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see both of them get picked live tonight. But I think the Big Show, if it's only going to be one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be very interested to see how many picks they put on TV. I would enjoy it if this was all draft and backstage reaction and one match with a championship on the line. That's how I would really enjoy tonight to go. They have 2 hours to fill.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have the cojones to do that with all draft coverage.
Well, and I don't think most people would enjoy that. You're a little bit different than the average fan.
But this is not going to be a show for the average fans. This is going to be a show that separates itself from everything else. And the way that we know that for sure is that they're doing 4 hours of coverage online to coincide.
Well, I was about to say, for the hardcore fan like us three here and the people that listen to this, that's what the network is built or is made for and being utilized for this evening.
You know, even though they do have the Social Outcast listed as a faction here, again, the rule states that
you can take one. Which I expect Curtis Axel to be plucked out of there.
I would say Heath Slater.
Really?
Yeah, they've treated him this whole time like he's above the other two.
Which is ridiculous, but that's a different story.
How interesting would it be if you saw the Dudley Boys get split up again?
They already did that once. I don't want, as much as I love Reverend Devon, if I never see him again, I'd be all right.
I actually think out of looking at the teams that are together right here, you probably see Social Outcasts and Golden Truth.
Nope. I'm still calling it Golden Truth will hold gold by the end of the year.
I don't see that. I don't know
That's
how
because
that
you're
works.
a stupid idiot.
Yes, thank you. And then I think a lot of the online coverage after the fact will also include some of these divas because I don't think they're going to give TV time to Alicia Fox, Ava Marie, sorry Naomi, but Summer Rae. I don't think, hell, it'll probably be interesting to see if Paige as a draft pick even makes TV time tonight.
Out of that list, I bet it's Becky, Charlotte, Sasha, and Paige that get drafted for the rest of them.
You
will
probably
just
see Dana Brooke too, because you probably see a Charlotte Dana Brooke. Either, well, they can't be a package pick because they're not listed as a package pick, but you may also see like a supplemental pick. You see Charlotte get drafted, supplemental pick to Raw, immediately being
Dana Brooke.
yes. So that'll be something to behold. There's a lot of guys in here who we've spent time on this exact podcast talking about what kind of worker Sheamus is and Alberto Del Rio.
Those two guys are great and don't get the credit they deserve, really.
So this will be an interesting...
See where they're valued in the WWE system?
Exactly. Because those are two guys who they can put on the match of the night. I mean, look what Sheamus just did as a transitional champion earlier this year, at the beginning of the year.
He made Roman look interesting, that's for sure.
And he's a guy who can go straight from the mid-card and automatically elevate right to that championship level, compete and look good, and then go right back to where he came from. And he actually, if they would have stayed out of the way of the League of Nations, if they wouldn't have tried to do so much with that and try to take it in these like, okay, we're going to be tag team, and now one of us is going to go for a belt, and then if they wouldn't have done all that and they would have treated them as a more focused, acceptable Wyatt family, that could have been a force of destruction up and down the locker room.
And I think that had a little bit to do with the Wade Barrett situation behind the scenes, but we could be wrong.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about where we see things.
All right, let's
overall.
get to the important thing. The 6 NXT draft picks, man.
All right, let's do that. Who is coming up off the NXT roster?
Let's go with who is definitely coming up.
All right, who do you believe is definitely coming up?
Definitely. I think we all agree Finn is coming up.
I agree.
Definite.
That's one.
Okay.
I think that definitely Nakamura comes up as well.
As much as I wanted,
okay, if that's a no, then name.
I know that's where you get me.
You know,
that's where he gets me, because when he said that earlier, I was like, nah, they can't do that yet. And then, okay, well, who else?
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about Samoa Joe,
except the fact that he has the strap,
and he has a title match with Nakamura at Takeover in Brooklyn.
Yeah, but you've seen. Well, there was already a match at NXT Brooklyn that was already floated out about Finn Balor and Nakamura taking on each other, and guess what? That's already gone.
Well, they did it earlier, but they're already starting the program on this current set of filming.
But also, I mean, how long did Kevin Owens have the NXT strap on the main roster?
Yeah, that is true.
But he also wasn't drafted to be a full-time employee of a brand in the construction of...
Okay, so they're only drafting one NXT wrestler then?
No.
Is that what we've agreed with now?
American Alpha.
American Alpha counts as one, and I do believe American Alpha gets drafted.
I think you see Nia Jax
with
tonight.
Kurt Angle. Wait, we haven't even talked about surprise drafts, man. We got to get to that.
Time out.
got to.
Slow down. Let's get through NXT.
No, screw NXT.
Shut up.
I believe
Kurt
American
Angle.
Alpha, but I also believe that the Revival comes up too.
See, they're tag champions. If you're going, well, they have the belt. They can't move.
That
takes them out of the
I think
picture.
tag team is different than the NXT belt.
Is it? They only have 3 belts. All of them are super important in their world.
Yeah, but it's been made clear that their world is Triple H's world, and Vince doesn't care about the NXT world.
No Rhino?
No Rhino.
Forget about it.
No.
Part-time.
I think we see, I said Nia Jax. I think we see Ty Dillinger. The perfect 10.
I would love to see Ty, but I don't know if we do, because when they have guys rehabbing at NXT, Ty Dillinger has kind of become that guy. He's like almost a coach level guy. Maybe. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't know if it's as big of a slam dunk as Finn is. And I think there's a better chance that we see Nakamura than we do Ty Dillinger.
Hey, I hope we see both of them. Again, I love Nakamura. He deserves to be there, but whether they're ready to move him...
So as of right now, we have agreed on literally 2 spots.
2 of the 6. What about Bayley? Bayley seems like kind of a shoe-in.
I think she has to.
She should.
Yeah.
I think it's a shoe-in. I think everybody that we saw do the curtain call. I think everybody who did the Too Sweet Nakamura curtain call at NXT over the weekend, I think all of those people in that ring are going up.
All the people that say that, forget one little factoid about the curtain call. The 4 guys in the original, only 2 of them were staying. The rest of them were moving on. Which is the whole reason why they went out to celebrate. Like, it's been great working with you. See you when you see you. And then Hall and Nash hit the road while H and Shawn stayed behind. Which means, as much as they're celebrating, some of those guys are going up, but not all of them. And the other thing is, every year they've done the draft in the past, they don't tell the wrestlers where they're going. They get a genuine reaction. So all those guys may be believing that they're staying or going.
Well, I don't know if they probably don't think they're staying or going. They've probably been told they're going. They just don't know to which brand.
Well,
and it would be interesting to see if there's a contingency of NXT people tonight who are live who aren't going to be picked. And maybe they don't even know that. So maybe you are right.
Well,
maybe they're going to bring all the NXT guys in.
What's his name? Santino Morel, the Cobra
Santino Marella.
douchebag. He was he talked about it in an interview where like he went through how many drafts, and he's like every year they wouldn't tell us who was going where. It was just you guys, all 5 of you get in the gorilla position, and then they would randomly pick somebody. Like they didn't know who was getting drafted where, what time.
But I think that's different than being on the NXT roster and living in Florida and only wrestling in a 150-mile radius to all of a sudden traveling the U.S. I think they have to give them a little bit more notice on that one. But since there isn't a live show between tonight and Monday, well, I mean, there's a pay-per-view, but I don't think anybody getting drafted from NXT tonight is going to show up at the pay-per-view unless they're starting a program with somebody. Then they could interrupt a fight, and we could see that. But they would have time tonight if they're not told which brand they're going to be on. They just know, okay, I have to go to Massachusetts tonight because I'm going to be called up, and then I'll find out what brand I'm going to be on. Now, how many of those NXT guys do they fly up that aren't going to get picked? And do they tell them ahead of time, hey, Ty, we need you to fly up there so we can get some shots of you backstage and we can make sure that we keep people off our trail, but you're actually not going to be moved to the main roster. You'll be flying back to Florida on Wednesday.
I don't know. I'm interested to see how it plays out, though.
Damn it, I hate when I start
Nakamura gets drafted, man. No doubt.
I hope so.
Strong style, baby. I hope so, too.
I want to hear that music hit tonight
I
so
love
bad.
that, man. I like him.
How many buses that they're going to sequester people backstage are they going to need tonight? Because they always do that. They do that. They did that with Rollins. They've done that before with Jericho. They did that with CM Punk.
Yeah, but if you bring in, 20 guys from NXT,
Bring the whole
trail.
If you bring the whole delegation, then you don't have to.
Well,
but
if you look at their Twitter presence, everybody on the roster is
Naturally,
like,
though.
well, I mean, if they're like, hey, all you guys are going to Massachusetts on Monday or Tuesday, pack your bags, get ready. You might be getting called up, or however
I
they're
hope
playing
that's
it
how they did that.
backstage.
I have so much hope that they are overthinking it as much as we are, because we overthink this. I often feel way more than they think it through.
Yeah.
We're analyzing things that we see in shots that they didn't even realize they were doing until after the fact, which they could totally react to, which is why I think New Day is great. They take the time to do that. But the company as a whole, the show, the product, they don't do that. They just go, oh, you guys notice that? We didn't do that intentionally. Ignore that. We're going to go over here and do this.
Yeah.
But that would be so much cooler if you did that.
But like I said, when it comes to the draft, in every previous reiteration, they actually took it pretty seriously and treated it like a legit draft. So
we agree on 3 of the 6
we
spots.
kind of agree on 3.
Sort of.
We really
we
agree
only
on 1.
solid agree on 1.
So what we're saying is that can go anyway.
It can go a
it
lot.
literally can.
I mean, I do feel Nia Jax. I'm not as confident as I am on Finn. Do you think Nia Jax makes her way up?
I mean, I say yes just because I don't know who. I don't know who any of the 5. I know Finn's getting drafted. We know that. I don't know the other 5.
I say Nia gets drafted because they put Ava Marie on the main roster already, and that's the only way that you have Ava Marie function in any way on either of the 2 shows is if you give her enforcer. So I think you might see Nia Jax. Whoever takes Ava Marie will probably get Nia Jax. But I also don't think you
what
see
about
Ava.
this? If Bayley does not get drafted, how mad is your NXT group? If she gets snubbed, are we seeing anger there?
Man,
Because I've seen anger from the NXT marks every single time that it's been a thought that she'd show up and she didn't.
I think and I don't think that they will even be half as mad as she will be.
Yeah.
Because she's one of the 4 horsewomen. She's been there since it was called the Divas Revolution. She's been there from that point all the way through. She's carried the belt there. She's done everything that's been asked of her, and she's still the one sitting down there.
Yeah,
I understand that her mic work is not perfect, but neither is American Alpha's, and we're looking at them like they're near shoo-ins.
I don't like
Yeah, but American Alpha is a lot better in the ring than Bayley.
They're a shoe-in with their manager. who that's going to be.
All right, fine. If you want to do this, we can't agree on the NXT guys.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and do this.
We're
Let's
We're sure
get
as
it out
hell
of the
not
way.
going to agree on
These
Kurt
guys-
Angle.
Freaking
Yes.
do it and go ahead. Who do you believe is going to be drafted
These
tonight?
are the guys that you definitely will have to hide from the public when you enter them into the arena. No doubt. You guys think any surprises?
No.
You don't think anyone outside of the WWE right now is going to get drafted?
There's a very, very slim possibility of a couple, but I think most of your surprises will either be NXT or they will be Cruiserweight Classics.
Kurt Angle's getting drafted tonight, baby.
No
Oh,
way
I can't
in
wait.
hell.
It is going to be awesome. Oh, my gosh. There's your supplemental right there. Woo.
I don't think.
Brother Nero,
No.
broken Matt Hardy.
No,
Their
brother-
contracts are so tight with TNA, they're
can
never
get,
leaving
man,
that
They can get out
company.
of that with a gift card to Olive
But they
Garden.
don't. But I don't know necessarily that they want to.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I'm asking you guys, is there anyone that you think from outside of NXT or WWE currently that gets drafted tonight?
I think there is the possibility, you and I were talking about this, where there are a couple of good Christian boys who have a contract with Ring of Honor that is only for a couple more months, easily can be bought out of, but these are two guys who you would have to promise the world to, not money-wise, but creative-wise, because they've been through the TNA meat grinder. They've been screwed over there. They've gone to Japan. They've seen how it's done there. They like where they are at structurally. I think the Young Bucks would probably be one of the few opportunities from outside of WWE that aren't involved in the Cruiserweight Classic that you could see as a surprise tonight, and that is a long shot, like less than 10% chance of that happening.
Rob Van Dam?
Nah.
Anybody with a drug conviction or domestic violence assault on their record is not coming back. Hence the reason no Kurt Angle. He's guilty of both.
Jim Ross?
God, I hope so.
I
But I doubt it.
Imagine
love that.
SmackDown drafting Jim Ross as their
Honestly,
commentator.
when I was thinking about who could be Raw commissioners last night, Jim Ross crossed my mind.
Oh, I was thinking Bischoff was going to come out, man.
No, I don't think there are guys like Eric Bischoff and even to an extent Jim Ross where if they were to have shown up in that capacity, it would have been kind of a joke. And I think that's not what they want here. They don't want a Vicky Guerrero. They're not looking for somebody to be a Teddy Long or even a John Laryngitis.
Are they drafting commentators or no?
No.
Okay.
But
Well, the
was
only
a
thing we
cool
know
thought
for
for a
sure is
second.
Cole's exclusive to Raw. That's the only thing they've announced.
wait, what?
They said Michael Cole's exclusive to Raw because they issued a statement of who the commentators were going to be tonight, and it's Michael Cole, Morrow, Byron, and I
Jerry
forget
the King Lawler.
and Jerry.
Lawler?
Yeah.
Lawler's on tonight. Well, Lawler's
What?
Lawler got cleared of all of his criminal charges.
been
back.
doing SmackDown.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
He's
was
been back for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And he's part of the reason why I think he and Adam Rose are part of the reason why Kurt Angle will not show up tonight, because they are so gun shy
Yeah.
on that type of thing.
Man, that'd be great, though.
It,
That'd be great.
it'd be fun
That'd be great.
for about 5 minutes.
No, it'd be great, man. You know it'd
I
be
think
great.
the minute that you have to start watching
Bro,
Kurt Angle,
as the American Alpha leader, bro, they even use his moves, man. Oh, it'd be beautiful.
I think we have a better chance of seeing Shelton Benjamin come back.
Yeah,
And Charlie Haas.
yeah. Now there are some guys actually, like a Kurt Hawkins, who have been in WWE before.
Chris Hero.
It's not going to be Chris Hero. It's going to be guys that they trust to work.
Carlito?
Carlito's actually, that is a possibility, although I think he does have a DWI or something on his
MVP?
record. Probably not MVP. You probably got a good chance of New Jack showing up.
Hey.
Jay Lethal?
Jay Lethal's under contract the same way that the Young Bucks are.
Well, except he's heavyweight champion of the world.
I'm just throwing out names to you
and
guys.
I think that Young Bucks would probably be easier to get and better for WWE than Jay Lethal ever would.
Rey Mysterio.
I'm not writing that off entirely, although it would be a hurdle to tackle the first time that
Can he be a cruiserweight, or is he a little too overweight these days?
no, he'd be a cruiserweight, but You don't think?
Oh no! All those roids he took in the mid 2000s. That dude's over 205 pounds.
Well, they're not.
They haven't officially announced
They're
the
not
weight
going to
either.
weigh
I mean,
everyone before they wrestle. Either.
are they going to use the Cruiserweight Classic rules for the Cruiserweight division, or I mean, these are
Rey
things that we don't
Mysterio,
know.
bro? Bring him back.
I think we have a better chance of seeing Johnny Mundo, John Morrison.
And we have no chance of seeing that, so I can confirm that one.
Well, I bet you can. I'm just saying, as far as Rey Mysterio goes, we have a better chance of seeing JM.
No, I think Rey Mysterio's got a pretty good shot because the only obstacle that they would have to overcome with him is now that they have this newfound love affair with mainstream media, somebody's going to bring up, hey, Rey Mysterio killed a guy. So if they feel like they can get past that, the amount of merchandise, Rey Mysterio,
that pesky little contract he's got with AAA in Mexico.
but those things he wasn't even getting. I don't know if he's got paychecks yet. So that whole thing came up. He's not getting paid, and I think he would be able to find a way. It's WWE. They can find a way out of any contract, anywhere, anytime.
Look at your boy Alberto Del Rio.
Exactly.
You know, there's the example there.
So Rey Mysterio is a possibility. Just because.
Just look for the stage. If it has that little hole in the middle, you know, if they show like a little aerial shot.
Here's what I would actually love to see if they do draft Rey Mysterio. I would like to see him come out like in a suit and the mask. Just come out and shake hands in a suit and a mask. That's what I would like.
Be awesome.
He's. I give the Young Bucks less than 10%. I give him 15%.
I think we have a better chance of seeing Eddie Guerrero tonight than Rey Mysterio.
Oh man! Wow.
Man.
Tough.
I'm just saying, no chance in hell as far as Rey Mysterio go. I don't think there's going to be any outside surprises unless it's like someone like Roderick Strong, who's a free agent, who's technically not working anywhere outside.
He's a free what?
Agent, bitch.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of outside surprises because they've given us the things that I asked for weeks ago, and this is where I asked for this split and the live SmackDown months ago, and we're just now getting around to it. But it seems like I keep having to ask for these things, and I swear that somebody from WWE is listening to this podcast because it seems like things that I ask for happen.
Yeah, you know, Puff's been applying. Maybe he got that job.
I know, and he just hasn't told us.
If I got that job, my ass would be in Connecticut right now.
That's how the Ambrose Asylum match
Yes,
actually happened.
that's
He
right.
wrote that. So
there would have been more blood if I wrote it.
I've asked for these rules to be set up so we know what we're talking about, because now with the structure of how this draft goes, we can have actual conversations and get excited about things. Them telling us they're going to be six people, wrestlers from NXT, that now gives us framework to start predicting. And then once we're given the coloring lines, now we're actually able to see how screwed up our picture is if we put the wrong colors in the wrong spots and have to start over. We have structure now. We can't just say they're going to draft the entire NXT roster. It's going to be 6 people. What 6 is it going to be?
NXT or WWE just posted, from demons to huggers to monsters, NXT is chock full of the perfect draft picks. Who do you want to come up?
All right, what was the headline again?
From demons to huggers to monsters, and the featured image on this picture is Balor, Bayley, Samoa Joe, and Nakamura.
At least one of them is not going up.
And
Bayley.
I would put that on Samoa Joe.
Yeah, me too.
I would say the other 3 of those are probably coming up. If they're going to put that in the headline,
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing is they listed about 10 people who you can vote on: Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, Bayley, Nakamura, American Alpha, Asuka, The Revival, Carmella, and Alexa Bliss, and Nia Jax.
But see, here's another thing though. We look so deep into
Carmella.
This. If
I
you're-
don't think Carmella comes up.
Listen, if you're in the WWE, right, and you're picking legitimately, and you're making this a legitimate draft, and you're picking the 6 best wrestlers or whatever you want to call that, or athletes from NXT, why would the first pick not be the champion?
Well, that's
In what world does
that's
that
what I'm
make any
saying.
sense?
Because-
why would the first pick not be the guy that is the best in that?
who
because
beat the guy that everyone perceives is the guy
Right.
in NXT.
Why in what world would that not be the most legitimate thing?
And I
Well-
think if you're going to keep Brock Lesnar around, Samoa Joe versus Lesnar, that would be a hell of a fight, especially since Joe's got some MMA experience. He's had some vicious battles over his career.
If you take Joe, you leave Nakamura. If you take Nakamura, you leave Joe.
Nah, Bobby Roode can carry the belt down there. Let's move on.
Right, but you need.
Or hell, maybe we see Bobby Roode or Austin Aries. Who knows?
What about Eric Young?
He's
Eric
not actually
Young.
not. He wrestled that one match. He's technically not under contract and has not appeared since.
Really?
Yeah, hasn't been at house shows. Hasn't done anything.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're holding on to him for a
Telling you,
reason.
Puff done got that WWE job, bro. He's working part-time for him. I know it.
Well,
It just doesn't. I'm saying, man, if you're picking 6, it don't make sense to not get the champ.
Well,
To
yeah,
draft 6 people but leave the champ.
it does.
top 3 would
It
be
makes
Joe,
sense
Nakamura.
inside, but outsider looking in, and like this is a real legit thing.
No, it still can. You can make an argument to say we need this person because he fits what we do. It's just like an NFL team. The Heisman Trophy winner doesn't get picked number 1 overall in the draft every year because it depends on what you're building.
Yeah, but he still gets picked.
Yeah, but that's because there's 711 draft slots. There's not 6.
Has there ever been a Heisman winner that didn't go in the top 2 rounds?
Yes.
Or top 4 rounds?
Jason White, Eric Crouch.
Well,
Guys who won the Heisman and then had their positions changed before they were ever brought into the NFL and then never made it.
we meant non-drunks from Nebraska.
Yeah. I
think it's different, though. I mean, look at how many collegiate football players there are going for that trophy, and how many can get drafted. You're talking about literally how many people can legitimately hold the belt in NXT. 4?
Well, you're also talking about
6.
a real competition versus a
That's what I'm
story.
saying, man. I'm telling you, Samoa Joe. Now, the more I think about it, he has to get drafted. He has to. Don't make no sense.
So you think Samoa Joe gets drafted to?
I don't know where.
Hey, maybe they drop the belt
It
and
just
have a
doesn't-
tournament.
It doesn't make sense.
Actually,
man.
that would be incredible.
Although-
that would be a great way to
See,
get out of this.
Which would be a great idea if they didn't already film a program with him and Nakamura moving forward. Like NXT for the next month's in the can.
Well, yep. I don't know how much.
Unless
Joe-
they edit it out.
My brain is about to bust.
Yeah, I know. Mine's gonna ooze out of my ears.
How-
right
how
Just
now.
about
watch this thing tonight.
Yeah, we go take a nap and get ready for tonight. Tell
Here's-
your wife to make nachos.
Here's the one thing that I want to
Mine
throw
or
in there.
his?
Either or.
One thing I want to throw in there that's hilarious. Not hilarious, but interesting to note, and you and I were talking about this just before we turned the mics on. There's one name on this official list that sticks out like a sore thumb because of the way it's written. Did you happen to put a mark by it, Jay?
Demon Kane?
Demon Kane
Yeah, we all agree that
is written specifically there for a reason. Do we think that there's a way that we
both
see Demon
Canes
Kane
get
drafted to one
Wow.
and Corporate Kane drafted to the other?
Totally.
well,
there is a
Corporate
way.
Kane's not
Kidding me?
listed.
He's not, but because they specifically said Demon Kane, do we see towards the end of the night, because he's not going to be a high pick, if we see towards the end of the night something where Daniel Bryan and his history with Kane rears its head and he gets that look over at Stephanie like she just screws him out of a pick, and him knowing that she has this authority relationship with Kane says, I take Demon Kane. Drafts Demon Kane. She gets a smirk on her face. Demon Kane does his little whatever they do when they get drafted tonight. They shake hands or whatever, and then right before he leaves the stage, Stephanie gives him a, hold on just 1 second. With Raw's next pick, I would like to select Corporate Kane.
Pretty awesome.
And then you have this weird dynamic
Very
of,
weird, yeah.
but why is it written
Yeah.
Demon Kane? There's a reason there, I think. And maybe it's a reason that they've got 24 writers now, maybe more. So maybe somebody did slide that in, like they have a plan. It might get overruled.
Well, I think the way they write now is kind of like Saturday Night Live, where everyone throws out ideas, and then they just go with whatever was like, hey, that sounds like a good plan. So someone could have tossed that out there and like, maybe we'll
I
hold.
think there's something to that.
Well, there could be. We've talked about this before. They lay out 7 different plans and then choose one and go with it. So that could have been
Right, and they have to lay it out. They have to lay all possibilities out, which is why there are a bunch of people running around with WrestleMania shirts say no disqualification match under the Triple H Roman Reigns match that happened at WrestleMania. Your headlining match at WrestleMania, and the merchandise had a different term on it than what the match actually was.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. What does make sense is
Kurt Angle getting drafted tonight. You're right. It makes a lot of sense.
You're an idiot.
Kurt and Rey Mysterio, baby. Boom, boom. And then Sting.
I've never been in control of the board. Well, your mic got shut off before.
Oh, yeah.
We're
Good
about
call.
to make that happen now.
Well, unfortunately, he's so loud he bleeds over on ours.
That is true.
funny.
But we're going to turn them all off in a second because that's the end of this for now. We will watch it all tonight. We'll probably talk about it tomorrow. There will be a lot of reaction, good or bad, and we'll cover it all on the Raw Meat Podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and we're also on YouTube where you're probably listening to this now. So hit the subscribe button.
Suck it.